All right, we get to the top, and yes, I have turned my hips, but I've turned them into a deep position. All right, so if you imagine that there's a pole going straight up and down your leg, I want you to maintain that throughout. I don't want to see it go one way or another. It's just that angle that it starts off with. Just try to keep it. The weight's going to stay on the instep right here, right? And as your hips go back and around, all right, your chest basically replaces that. Hey, welcome back to Dan for Golf. Today we're going to talk about two different subjects. We're going to talk about the reverse spine angle or the reverse tilt, and we're also going to talk about early extension or basically losing your posture because both of these moves kind of result from one another or causes one to happen when you don't actually expect it to happen. So as always, if you're brand new to our channel, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button. That way you can see all our future videos, especially if you hit that little bell. And give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content today. So the reverse spine angle or the reverse tilt and early extension are two of the most common faults that we come across in the golf swing. So most likely if you're watching this, unfortunately you might have one of those. Okay, these two ideas probably cover about 95% of golfers, unfortunately. A lot of us struggle with it and we don't really know that we have this going on. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the reverse spine angle or the reverse tilt because that is the most common fault that we come across. So if you don't know what that is, when you set up, you either start with your head on the lead side of the golf ball, all right? That's a cause that can cause a reverse tilt, all right? Or you set up, and we want you to set up this way so you feel like you have a little tilt behind the golf ball, all right? But then when you get to the top of the golf swing, the reverse spine angle is basically that. As you get to the top, and your spine angle reverses, and it goes the wrong direction. Okay, that is a major cause of a lot of back pain in golfers that come across. All right, and then why do we have that? What causes that? What is the leading factor that causes that? So first off, if you're tilted the wrong way, make sure you get to the tilt back behind it, or I mean, at least if it's straight up and down, it's going to be a little bit better. Okay, now our chest usually doesn't just go that way to tilt. It usually is a factor due to the hips sliding that way. It might be that you're trying to shift your weight to your back foot, and you actually just shift your pelvis or your hips that way, right? So the first thing that you need to do is you need to pay attention to what your hips do. If I put a line right up and down my leg here as I turn, it shouldn't go that way. You'll see some golfers have a little shift, but then it goes into a turn. If you want to fix that reverse spine angle, that reverse tilt, you got to make sure that your hips are doing the right thing. So if you look at it from down the line, if I reverse tilt, you're going to see that my belt buckle doesn't really turn at all. My hips don't really turn, they just slide. So if I do it correctly and I turn, you're going to see my right leg goes backwards. All right, we get to the top, and yes, I have turned my hips, but I've turned them into a deep position. All right, so if you imagine that there's a pole going straight up and down your leg, I want you to maintain that throughout. I don't want to see it go one way or another. It's just that angle that it starts off with. Just try to keep it. The weight's going to stay on the instep right here, right? And as your hips go back and around, all right, your chest basically replaces that. So we're trying to get the leg to stay in one place. We're trying to get the lead shoulder to move across your body. Okay. Now, if you turn your hips right, but you still kind of do this, you're going to feel a lot of weight kind of go to your front leg, and that can still cause you to have that reverse tilt. All right, so get into that nice little tilt. Feel like that leg stays in one place, it just moves backwards, shifts backwards, and the lead shoulder goes across your chest. Okay. Now, if you are a reverse tilter and you know you are and you're struggling with it, or if you don't know what you are, this is what the common miss is going to be. Right, left, occasionally straight. Okay, because what happens is when you reverse tilt, you tend to back up out of it because everybody knows that this is the striking position to hit the golf ball. Guys on tour, everybody's like that. Nobody ever sits over there like that. So our reverse tilters, they tend to go here and they back up out of it. They usually hit off their back foot, thin it a lot. And since you're going backwards, a lot of times you're going to block it out to the right, or you're going to flip it, and occasionally you time it right and you hit it straight, right? So we like to see you have one predictable miss in the golf swing, and when you reverse tilt, there's no predictable miss. It's just all over the face of the world, and it's really hard to play golf when you don't know exactly where the ball is going to go, and you don't know if you miss it where it's going to go. Okay, so the reverse tilt, it causes lots of misses. It also causes that early extension, which we're going to cover next, or that loss of posture. Now, for those who struggle with losing posture, or basically just standing up in your golf swing, there's something that's very common that I see a lot of golfers who tend to early extend. First, their hips go towards the golf ball, but really their golf club goes into a more vertical position, right? And when the club goes vertical, the face tends to open up. And if you've got that reverse spine tilt and you're losing posture and the hands are going up, of course that ball is going to fly out to the right. So this is just a little setup that you can do. If you have grass, it works the same way. You're just going to put a stick into the ground. But if you don't have grass, if you're not mats or whatever, this is how you set it up. So you just put a stick, and it basically needs to go just below your arms. So you set up to it. It's just going to go right there. Right? And if you find that you're reverse tilting and you're going up, you're going to hit the stick a lot of the time. Right? This is a very simple drill to help you start to also feel like you stay down into it. Right? So this is something that you can do just if you don't reverse tilt and you just lose posture. This is a great way for you to start to get the feeling of how do I stay down with it and not let the handle start to rise up on me. So simply you just set up to it, take some practice swings, just feeling like it goes underneath it. Basically, if you are taping yourself from down the line, if you put a circle around your hands, if you start and come back down into it, your hand should replace back in that circle, right? Now, if we're talking about impact, I want to make sure that you know what impact should be. Impact from down the line is basically hips open, shoulders open, hands are going to be a little forward. Hips open, shoulder open, hands are a little forward. So that is impact. Impact is not basically coming back to everything being square, kind of like you started or you set up to it. Okay, so make sure that you are practicing a good impact, and this will help you. So set up to it. A few practice swings to the top. Feel those hands go back underneath. And it'll feel kind of hard, especially staying down with it. It's a little bit easier if you actually put the shaft into the ground. Let's try one more time. That was a little better. If you have a cool noodle, you can kind of put that on the end. It'll save your hands or your forearms maybe from getting nicked up a little bit. And maybe it'll just help you be a little bit more brave when it comes to hitting into it. But reverse spine angle causes all sorts of issues. Fix that, and then work on staying in your posture by just making sure the hands stay low. I promise you, if your hands track back underneath, you're going to stay in posture. Nobody stays in posture and hits with their hands high. It's impossible. You won't see any guys on tour doing that, any ladies on tour, any low handicappers doing that. Okay, so make sure your hands finish low. It'll keep your body down and start striking it a lot better. Thanks for watching today. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already.